Welcome back. Everyone's had the opportunity to get a little warmer than it is in these chambers. And so we are going to resume the questions after this public hearing, and we'll start with Councilman Clay.
Well, Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay. Well, all right. Go ahead and make a motion.
Well, although this is just the first pass.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll put the sound transfer coefficient on the second motion. So I'll make the motion to approve.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Discussion. Go ahead, Councilman Clay. Do you have anything to add?
No, I'm good.
Councilman Carn?
No, until the second item.
Councilman Allen?
I'm fine with this.
Councilman Gay?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That's unanimous. We'll move on to the second public hearing. It is for a conditional use permit for an educational facility. A school
Okay, I'll make a motion on that one.
at 1950 Sullivan Road.
We gotta have the public
we
hearing.
have a public hearing, so we need to
Oh,
go ahead and.
sorry about that.
No worries. Go right ahead. Ms. Rambo?
Yes, ma'am, thank you again. Again, this is a conditional use permit for a K through 12 charter school located at 1950 Sullivan Road. You have all the details from the previous petition, so I won't take your time going through that again. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this petition. Again, staff recommended denial for reasons stated earlier. If the Mayor and City Council does choose to approve this petition, staff recommends the following conditions. The building should be retrofitted to reduce airport noise to no more than 35 dBA in a classroom. A traffic plan shall be presented to the city staff to prevent queuing along Sullivan Road. And that's all that the staff has at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Rambo. Anything from the applicant? Anything from the applicant?
Yes, I'm sorry. If we could, if it's okay with council, we'll incorporate all our comments from the rezoning into this hearing so we don't have to repeat them, and incorporate our constitutional notice if that's all right. Okay. And that way you don't have to hear that long speech. We would ask, I think based on my understanding, for a 40 point as opposed to a 35 point decibel allowance within. From what I understand. My understanding is that report, they did try to send it over through the phone. Unfortunately, it's hundreds of pages and it wouldn't transfer. I talked to Garrett about it before he was leaving to get his flight. But my understanding is that's
Could you
something we're asking.
speak a little closer to the mic, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My understanding is he did try to send the site assessment study to the city once asked, and I think he came in through a flight and he tried to get it through his phone and he couldn't get it to pass through because it was hundreds of pages for the site assessment study. But I've asked, and they've asked for a 40 decibel allowance opposed to 35, which I think is consistent with others, but I'll leave that to the council. Other than that, we'd incorporate our prior comments and ask for the CUP.
Thank you so much. At this time, I'll declare the public hearing open. Those wishing to speak on this conditional use permit can approach at this time. Seeing no one, the public hearing is closed. Councilman Clay?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to discuss things with Councilman Carn. I'd like to propose a motion at this point, actually. And then we can have comment if you want. I think the maximum dB from overflights. DNL doesn't matter. It's the LAQ for 1 second peak that's really important. What I've been able to measure over there is about 70, but that was not at the worst possible time, so it's probably 75. With some planes, it might be 80. So regular conversation is 65. 55 is about half as loud. That's the way it sounds to the ear. 45 is 1/4 as loud, and you can sleep with 45 pretty well. So certainly in the classroom, that would be probably a good target. That would be my recommendation. And so if you achieve a 35 dB sound transfer coefficient, which is what we targeted for Hawthorne Estates, or Hawthorne Station, I'm sorry, you could tolerate a plane flying over 45 plus 35 is 80, excuse me, and you could have a plane flying over at 80. They're not flying over there at 80 right now because they're not flying over there. But to Councilman Carn's point, the 6th runway was planned to go in, as I recall, 3/10 of a mile north of the 5th runway. So you can plot that out on a map very easily and see exactly where that would be. And you'll find that is in the protection area of the runway. So whether that building would be allowed to stand or not is debatable. But certainly for right now, you've got a number of years, because even if they declare that it's going to be actually going to start, they have a lot of investigation to go on and so forth. So my proposal would be to have a motion of 45 dB internal target with a 35 dB sound transfer coefficient. And the sound transfer coefficient is really what you're interested in. That says what the insulation has to be in the building. So that would be my proposed motion. And we would want, what, free busing, right?
Yeah, I want to add to that motion,
Within 5 miles.
right, daily bus service for every day the school is open within the 5-mile radius. Also, I think I'd like to make sure that you all are going to build some type of outdoor phys ed, outdoor sports courts, something along those lines. I think, you know, in the state of Georgia now, it's actually a requirement for phys ed in every school now, I'm told. So,
Well, they have to meet the state.
yeah, well, yeah. Were you planning on some kind of outdoor activity area?
Wait, hold on 1 second. There's been a motion made, and so we want to be clear on
So
the
the
motion and get a
motion
second.
is-
So,
45 dB target internally, 35 dB sound transfer coefficient, free busing, and you abide by the state requirement for whatever outdoor recreation area is required. How's that?
Well, that's fine. Well, it requires physical phys ed, which means you can do it indoors, but I'd like to see something outdoors as
Well,
well. for the
don't they
kids.
have an outdoor requirement? Whatever the state requires.
There's no outdoor requirement, but physical
Okay, well,
education.
whatever
hold
the
on,
state-
hold on, everybody. Hold on. Councilman Clay, what is your motion? One more time.
That they meet the state requirement for recreation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. Councilman Clay, and we'll go down the line.
I don't have any more to say.
Councilman Carn?
All right. Well, I mentioned the possible outdoor courts I thought would be nice, so if you could have something outdoor as well as indoor, that'd be great.
Councilman Allen?
I'm good with the motion the way it is.
Councilman Gay?
No comment.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we are moving on to the consent agenda. Questions for Chief Rogers on items 1 or 2? Councilman Clay?
What are we doing? What item are we on, Mayor?
We are on the consent agenda. So it is item 8A, 1 and 2, as those are both with the police department. So questions for Chief Rogers on those items?
I have no, it's a no-brainer. I have no questions at all on any of them.
All right, Councilman Carn, anything on 1 or 2?
No, nothing on 1 and 2.
Councilman Allen?
I'm good with both of them.
Councilman Gay?
My only question is, do we still add, it's a budgeted item? Is that still something we add?
Yes, that is in the workshop. That's in the workshop packet, as we were to actually address these issues during the workshop. But, all right, so, any questions on item 3? Councilman Clay says he has none. Councilman Carn?
This is the Xerox.
Correct.
I thought I saw you guys are here. I guess, any particular reason just to answer the questions, or?
Answer any questions that might come up.
Okay. So are we gonna get new machines? I know we do ongoing leases. Are we upgrading all of them, or some of them, or?
This, excuse me, this would be to upgrade all machines throughout the city to just using the Canon family. So every location would have the same type of machine. It'll be an upgrade, moving from Xerox and Toshiba. So everyone will get a faster machine.
I was gonna ask, what are we using now? All right, well, gotta have copies.
One other note, I'm sorry, but we're going with a bigger machine in the mailroom, so the cost went up an additional $439.73.
What is this annual amount compared to the last contract annually? I see $64,370. What was the last annual contract amount?
With Xerox, it fluctuated. The contracts were on different terms, so I will have to look into that to give you a ballpark on what was
Roughly,
spent.
the total amount was about the same, maybe within $1,000.
Okay, all right.
Councilman Allen?
I've got no questions, thank you.
Councilman Gay?
Are there any costs after you go past so many clicks? Are there other costs aside from what this annual cost is? Is this unlimited color copies?
No, everyone charges for color and black and white
I
copies.
guess, let me ask the question again. Will there be additional costs incurred outside of this annual cost if we get more copies? Do you understand the question? Because that's where it comes to be a little bit more than we had thought.
Thank you. I understand the question. This
Sir?
contract,
Sir, what is your name?
I'm sorry, my name is Jethro Jones.
Thank you.
I work for Canon Solutions America. We're a direct Canon branch. Our proposal is based on the state of Georgia state contract. And the way the state of Georgia state contract works is there are no included copies. You pay for whatever it is you make, no more, no less. So each individual device has a charge for every page that is printed out of the device. So, and it's like half a cent a page. For black and white, for color, it may be 3, 4, or 5 cents, all depending on which device it is.
Is that in our package, those additional costs?
That is in your recommendation.
It should have been
The
uploaded.
reason why I asked is because I actually just literally leased a commercial copy, and I did not realize that after I pay the annual fee, there's a click charge that exceeds, it's exponent, so is that a cap on that budget, or we can just go and make $100,000 worth of copies? We can cap anywhere, city manager? What is it,
What's included in that click charge, it's not just a charge, okay? That includes your maintenance for all service, supplies, parts, labor, and all dry toner that's required, everything that's required to operate the machine, with the exception of paper and staples, is included. Any service calls, any software upgrades, anything like that. And that's based upon that per click charge. So there's not an additional charge on top of that.
No addition, no more costs after this monthly charge.
There's-
Unlimited copies.
There are no unlimited copies. You pay for the copies that you make.
If you made 5.
Sir,
clicks-
can you
I'm sorry.
say who you are?
Yep, my name is John Pruitt. If you made 5 copies that day, you would be charged for
The
5.
city will be charged.
It should be 5. If there's no copies made, no charges. It's a kind of eat as you go. It covers everything for that. One thing that, as Canon, working with the city, is that we do quarterly business reviews. We see all the meters, we see everything's running as far as clicks, and if we saw anything kind of out of the ordinary, high compared to what as we right-sized and kind of looked at the fleet, we would be going, hey, what's going on down there? There is a product that comes with the copiers called Uniflow that lets us help, kind of track usage, where it's going, so we're very conscious of what's going on.
All right, just one final question. 2 questions. What prompted us to go from the current provider to this provider? Were we at the end of a contract, or did someone decide that, hey, let's just change vendors?
Since 2004, we've been with the Xerox brand. The city's been with the Xerox brand. However, the contract was being held in Canada. And so, looking into that scenario, and we've had service issues, we've actually have 12 that are outside the contract right now from the 23, and some that are coming up. We want to look at just replacing to one standard unit.
And when you met with the gentleman, did you give them our per average click charge over a period of time? Could they make that competitive? Was that something y'all looked at to try and give us within those, our historical click charge? Because I hate for my colleagues to say, okay, now you get a bill for a lot of more money than they didn't ask those questions.
According to the state contract, which we'll be writing your new contract on, all the terms and conditions there apply. They go across the board for all manufacturers that are on the state contract. Xerox, Toshiba, Sharp, Konica Minolta, all those on the pre-bid contract of the Georgia state contract, they all function exactly the same way. And Canon is as competitive as anyone in the industry.
We're paying a per copy charge now with Xerox. It's no different.
No, I got that. I asked that they can, well, I think he just answered the question. On the state contract, the click charges are all the same. Is that what you just said?
They're different based on different models of machine. A small machine will be different than a big machine. Costs more to maintain that machine. So, but basically, they're all within fractions of a cent.
If I could just, in looking at the fleet, we've kind of standardized to take a look at it that way, so pretty simple.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor, I have, excuse me, I have one more question. if
Okay.
I might. I don't think we got the contract in our package. I don't remember seeing it. So this is a 5-year contract. So what is the performance standard of the contract? In other words, since I don't have the contract, what if we find out that when we make a phone call, it takes 3 days to get a machine repaired? Is that okay? Or is it 10 minutes, or is it an hour, or, is that in the contract? And if it is not met, can the contract be canceled?
According to the state contract, you have the ability to cancel the contract for non-performance. You have the ability to cancel the contract for convenience. You have a 4-hour service response time, is this SLA service.
Thank
right.
you. That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
And I presume that you guys have looked at the contract, and you're comfortable? Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Councilman Carn?
So moved.
Yeah, my question also was the same. How was your service call record? That was going to be my question. And Usually, I like to see the contracts before we approving stuff. Sometimes we get less and less in these packets sometimes,
It's a state contract.
but if, state contract, I just want to see it, what we're approving. Obviously, we need it. You guys have looked at it. And I'm okay with it, obviously. We got to have it, so.
Councilman Allen?
I've got no problems. We're paying a click charge right now. I have no problems with paying it because it's going to be basically comparative. Okay.
Councilman Gay?
No, I'm okay with it, but I do like to make a comment. I would like, I think we talked about this, anytime that there's a contract involved, I would like for there to be some proof that our law department has reviewed it and it's been signed off. Because we having some issues where contracts are not being looked at by legal. And legal is assuming that somebody else looked at it. So if it's 60,000, 600,000, there needs to be some type of proof. That way somebody could be held accountable when it should something go wrong. That makes sense? Maybe you could just add some kind of
We reviewed it, and generally, it's on the transmittal, on the cam. It says who reviewed it.
Right, but I don't look at CAM, sir. I'm talking about when you asked me to vote for $64,000 at 9 o'clock at night, I want to be able to see that it was reviewed by all respective departments. There got to be some kind of way that they signed off. That way, in the future, if there's any problems, we know who's held accountable. I think we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Is that fair? That's fair? All right, thank you.
So, one comment. This is not a Canon contract, no?
Is there a motion to approve
You
the
almost made a
consent agenda?
motion. I thought we were approving this item here.
Is there a motion to approve this consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 9A is a motion to approve the City of College Park to start the referendum process of Social Security coverage for Mission Square 401A defined contribution plan participants. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the plan that is the individual decision on a go, no-go for the program.
That's second with discussion.
Councilman Clay's made the motion. Councilman Carn seconded. We'll start with Councilman Clay and go through. Go ahead, Councilman Clay.
I have really no further questions. I think this particular plan doesn't inconvenience anyone. If they don't want to take it, they can opt out. They're not forced to take it. It's not a majority rule kind of thing. It's an individual decision.
That is correct, Councilman.
And that gives everybody flexibility. And in the future, we offer there is no choice. In the future, you are in the plan automatically. And I think it's a good thing, particularly these days, to have that additional nest egg.
Yes, sir.
So I'm good with it, and that's it.
Councilman Carn?
Okay, so the annual, the 135 here, when will that kick in? When will we start paying that? We're past the beginning of our fiscal year, so when does that, is it payments or what is it? How
That's
do we
the
do it?
annual cost that it would be to the city based on those salaries, the 6.2% for each individual salary. Unfortunately, the representative had to leave, but the request is to start the referendum process.
Okay.
As you stated, it
Okay,
would take about 6 months.
Okay, got it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I did want to, she's going to find out for us the other municipalities
Yes,
that are doing
we
this.
will follow
Okay.
up with her
All
tomorrow
right,
on that.
I'm good.
Councilman Allen?
I just want to make sure we understand, you're talking about the maximum being, I think I have it here is 6%. We say 135 for. If somebody elects not to get in it, then
The cost will be lower.
that brings that cost down.
That's correct.
So, okay.
Councilman Gay?
No questions.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Item 9B is motion to approve Pro Cutters for landscaping maintenance to an existing contract with the City of College Park Athletic Fields in the amount of $34,125. Good evening, Ms. Johnson and Dr. Adadarian.
Good evening, everybody. So we are coming to you today. We've got the athletic fields. We're looking for help with Pro Cutters. The GICC and the arena are currently using them to cut the facility, so we have a current contract with Pro Cutters. And due to some lack of staff in Public Works, some of the fields have been not able to get cut on a regular basis, and as Mr. Terry tells us every day, the sun keeps shining, the rain keeps coming down, and the grass keeps growing. So we need some assistance with getting these fields taken care of on a daily basis. During high season, what we're looking at pretty much for September and October, and it should end around the end of October. But we did extend it out with that cost going through March, April, and May, depending on what we would do with possibly a budget amendment with looking at recreation, possibly taking on parks for the maintenance for the future. So athletic fields are what we're looking at, and this gives us an opportunity to start with them and see if they can help us and assist us and if this will work out for us.
Questions? Councilman Clay?
I think I was trying to get an answer to this question in our emails, but I'm not sure that I understand it. So the overall city budget requirements, the cost of doing this, will not increase the overall city budget because it is currently covered in Public Works, but Public Works doesn't have the staff to do it. So that money effectively is, where's Althea?
Yeah, so I think I can address it, Althea. Althea and I, we've talked about a budget adjustment at that point, possibly in October, looking at what those,
You just be moving from Public Works budget into your budget.
that's the direction that I've been given.
That's all I had.
Councilman Carn?
Okay, couple of questions I have. So recreation taking on the parks in terms of grass cutting. Now, at some point, we're gonna get Public Works staffed up to where they need to be. So, once we do that, does it make sense for Public Works to handle the grass in general, since they're handling the grass in general? Is it cheaper to let staff handle it once we get enough staff or additional equipment or whatever we need at some point, as opposed to farming it out? Or what's the consensus between the two of you? I mean, you all are, you know, kind of, I guess, I'm assuming y'all have been talking about it, and what did y'all come up with for the future? City manager, yeah.
It's an issue that we will be speaking to the mayor and council about in depth during the restructuring.
Okay. Well, I don't want to see us double over staff. You know, in other words, if it ends up where Parks is going to start handling grass cutting services themselves, then would that mean that Parks would have to load up on lawn equipment and all of the things that Public Works has some of already? But so, you know, or do we continue to contract it, or so at some point we're going to go through that? Okay, yeah. Well, obviously we got to have this. So, yeah.
Councilman Allen?
The only question I have is, you're talking about the fields. Let's just take the Duck Park with the baseball fields. Are they gonna cut the baseball fields and the other part around the pavilions, or is
Yes.
Public Works gonna cut the part around the
So
pavilion?
this quote is just specifically for the athletic fields. Because it's high programming currently with, you know,
So we would
football
have-
and baseball.
So we would
just-
have two groups doing Duck Park, one doing the ball fields over there, and one doing the rest of the facility, rest of the park.
Correct. This quote just is for the fields only, to maintain so that we can play. They need to be cut weekly during that high season to make sure that we can have safe play on those fields.
Okay.
Councilman Gay?
On Phillips Park, the cut is just for which, is for the
It'll be for
field?
the soccer field.
times a month?
Depending on growth season, it would be weekly during high grow, which would be March, April, May, June, July, August, and September, and possibly through mid-October.
And Soccer in the Streets don't no longer pay for that?
Well, right now, we're trying to get new agreement with them, so we still need to have the fields cut for that high season.
And one other question, on Brandon Park, I noticed,
It is on there also. That would be part of the multi-purpose field if there would be part of the cut.
only one time?
No, once a week during high season. So we're only looking currently to go to the end of October right now. And we wouldn't pick back up until March. The amount that I asked for was the full amount just to make sure we'd be able to transition based on what we do for budget adjustments.
And even though we're short-staffed, that still frees up building and grounds. So do they do more of something else?
You want to speak on that, because I need to talk about staff.
Currently, I'm down about 13 buildings and ground staff. So the crew I have can barely keep up with the roadside areas.
I see. How many did the org chart calls for?
The org chart about 22.
All right. Is there a motion? Anybody make a motion?
No, sir, no one's made a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second, I got some discussion.
All right, we'll start Councilman Clay and go down the line.
I'm good.
Councilman Carr?
Okay, so the fields, they need service weekly, but the park grass, where the playgrounds are and stuff, that grass is growing slower, or?
No, Public Works would still handle the parks, just because of their lack of staff.
Okay.
They couldn't get to, if we had a rain day and they didn't hit the field,
I got you.
they were, it just gets them behind. And during the high season with football and baseball, we've got to have those fields. They have to be
Yeah,
cut.
we gotta do it. We gotta figure out a way to get staffed up. I know we got some challenges there, but we really gotta sit down and come up with a plan. I know people are short and other cities are short, but that's not my concern. We, regardless of the reasons, we gotta figure out something. There's a solution to every problem. And city manager, I really want us to sit down and maybe get with HR and see if we can come up with some other way for recruitment to get some folks in here. And I don't know if it's a pay issue or what it is exactly, but I know you've touched on some of the stuff that every department in every city's dealing with, but I really want to figure this out to get
Yeah,
staffed
we've been
up.
working hard to try to figure out a solution, absolutely.
Well, we got to come up with a recruitment plan. I think we need to, that's one of the things we talked about before we brought Dwight on board. I said recruitment. That was a big issue, so we still got to figure that out.
Councilman Allen?
The only other comment I have to make is this should help out on equipment, maintenance and so forth for Public Works as well. Because you're gonna be using the equipment, but not near as much.
That's true, but we still have to, the few that we have on hand, we still have to use it on a regular basis.
Okay, I still think you'll have to, cut that down. Okay.
Councilman Gay?
Oh, just a quick thought. Is our building and ground personnel at the high end of the industry or low end? I was just wondering. Do anybody know, quick off the top? Sam, do you know building and ground, when we did the org chart, are they at the highest or the low? Does anybody know?
Are you talking about their grade level? Is that what you're asking?
No, the pay.
So the grade level for, is labor one, I believe. It's not the bottom, but it's probably right there, close to it. No?
Because, so we don't know if our building and ground is at the high or low, can you get that back to us?
Yeah, we can. Without Dr. Baker being here at the moment, as I've made comment to you before, a part of it is our practice of, it's the minimum that we offer. So if we were trying to attract people on the higher end, say from an experience standpoint, which also would usually means higher compensation, we almost don't look that way, and that's across the organization. But the issue here isn't just recruitment, to get to Councilman Karn's point, it's also retention.
Right.
And so some of the reasons for the high level of vacancies that Dr. Aderin just pointed out isn't just a recruitment issue, is retention issue over a range of issues.
Sure. Well, I will comment, my last comment, you know, I'm just saying is, I think the lower tier staff needs to be given the same priority as top tier staff. And saying that, I look at private, commercial landscape organizations like El Castro, you know, even the ones that are cut for us, you know, they're paying these people at a much higher rate, and that has to do with the retention, and then they offer them benefits. Cause, you know, I went down, and I drive around some of these streets, I've not seen it like this in a long time. We got to figure this out.
Councilman Gay, if I can.
Hold on one second.
I'm done.
You're finished? Councilman Clay, anything?
No, I'm fine.
Councilman Karn?
You know, one of the things that, you know, this time last year, when we were discussing some of the issues we were dealing with, the recruitment and retention, like the city manager said, was pretty much one of the top problems that we were having. The answer was, well, we need to put together a pay study. We paid $40,000 to get this thing together. The problem is the directive came from the low pay scale, the lower end of the pay scale, which was a big part of the problem. Now, we fought hard to get the police up to somewhat close to a decent wage. We fought to make sure a lot of these departments got what they were supposed to get. The pay study, a big part of it was to bring up the lowest paid workers. The problem was, when we finally got down to it, the folks we paid for this pay study were not available. We couldn't thoroughly discuss all three options that we were looking at. We were handed an option that was recommended from staff. The problem with that option is it did not properly address the lowest paid workers in this city. It addressed them to a point where, and according to Dr. Baker, well, the minimum salary, the increased difference now was about 28 cents. So it took them from 15.70 something almost to $16, but not quite. So at some point, in my opinion, I think the process got hijacked in a sense. I wanted to see those other options because because what we were trying to do is make sure we cover as much staff as possible. But the lower paid staff, $1 increase to a $15 an hour employee is a significant difference in lifestyle, in terms of survivability, in terms of stability. Now, a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 employee, $1 increase, that's good for them too. But it pales in comparison to the impact of our lowest paid workers. And that comp study, I think, I wouldn't want to say it was a waste of time, but I did not get a chance to have a thorough and fully realistic assessment of it because the people that we paid to do it were not here. We were given one option to focus on and could not explore those other options properly, in my opinion. And that's where I think the misstep was, and why, once again, our lowest paid workers, in my opinion, are getting the short end of the stick. And these workers are some of the most crucial front-facing services that this city requires and needs. You know, everybody cannot get what they want to get, but at the end of the day, we have to serve the residents. And I can tell you right now what my residents are demanding and asking for are front-facing services. When we look at that, what is that called, that ward report that we got with the ward complaints? What is it called? It's a ward assessment,
I notified.
well, it comes from the I Notify.
Yeah.
I looked at the reports, and these are the direct complaints from our residents, citywide. Are y'all following me so far? You know what the number one category of complaints were citywide? Public works, grounds, sanitation issues, public works, public works, public works. Now, public works is second in vacancies. 15, 16 or so, police department is probably first in vacancies. But it's a front-facing situation where everybody needs an increase, and we need to look at salaries and all of that. But we're a hospitality city, and we're looking bad. We need grass cutters. We need increased sanitation services. Again, we talked about our dynamics. We still have not addressed our dynamics, and the comp study sidestepped our dynamics. And I don't know how that happened, but maybe it was someone's preference to present something that did help upper and middle management folks more so. But the thing that I'm not happy about is that our lowest paid workers, our lowest paid, got the short end of the stick with that comp study, I do believe. And I don't think it's fair. But we are where we are, and once again, we're still short-staffed, mostly with the lowest paid workers, who again are some of the most crucial to this city. Are they the most important? No. But from a residential perspective, based on the complaints, that's number one. And that's not according to Joe Karn or Mayor Broom.
Motley
It's
Crue.
according to the residents. So I'll leave it at that.
Councilman Allen?
I don't have any questions, thanks.
Councilman Gay?
I do recommend that we support you and your leadership on trying to get more manpower for building and grounds and other public works services. And, you know, maybe some of the workforce, I know you and I talk about this. We might even have to have a conversation about random drug testing. I was just talking to someone, I don't know if this is true, you have to fact check it, but somebody told me you don't have to pass a drug test to be a police officer in the city of South Florida. I don't know if that's true. That is not true. I was told that, but the point is, we may need to look at random drug testing as it relates to some of our classifications, because that eliminates a lot of people. I would think so. I know hospitality, at least Atlanta hospitality, you don't have to pass a drug test. At least I did when I used to work in hospitality, so I don't know about now, but we just can't run a city where nobody cut grass unless you're gonna sub it all out. Maybe you should just look at subbing it all out. Cause I can leave here with you tonight and we go look at some streets and I can tell you that they need to be mowed.
Well, they need this
Hold
now.
on, hold on.
I'm finished.
All right, well, back in April, we received everything from Dr. Baker. We received every plan that Evergreen proposed, and this council made a decision in regard to how they were going to adopt segments of this compensation study, but I certainly don't want to mischaracterize that we didn't get all the information, because we did. We received the entire full report of Evergreen, and so there was a shortened presentation that was done before council, but the actual study itself, we received the entirety of that study and the 3 different proposals that they had. And
Oh,
so,
that's not
hold on, I'm still,
actually the case.
sir, yeah, it actually is the case.
No,
I'm
it's
looking
not.
at-
Now
I'm-
explain why.
I'm looking at the email right now. And
Yes,
so
great.
we actually did receive that information, and I understand that it may not have been everything that folks may have wanted, and it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we are asking for the information that we need. But the actual study itself, we actually did receive. And so there's additional comment, Councilman Clay, and we'll work our way down the line.
Mayor,
Yes,
you know, I hesitate to comment,
generally, yes.
but I feel like I need to say something.
Okay?
It's okay for council or council person to take issue and support one classification of employees. But I take issue with pitting one classification of employees against another in order to make the point. Because I will tell you, across this organization, and I know classifications, and yes, College Park has suffered with underpaying its employees across the board, and even with its practices of how it brings in employees. So I hope we will be careful, because as city manager, I have a responsibility to keep all employees motivated. And sometimes comments, I guess in trying to help one group, it's not necessary to bring down another.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Clay?
I've been good for a long time.
Councilman Carn?
First of all, City Manager, I have no intention on trying to bring down different departments or divide at all. I think overall we do a good job with staff. We try to compensate everybody the best we can. I, for one, has been one of the strongest advocates for compensation for staff across the board. When the police department from our former city manager was recommending a 5% increase, I was the one that insisted in the public meeting to up that to 20% and not 5% here, 10% here, and another percentage in December. I insisted that it be done then and now, and it was done immediately at the next meeting. I fought to make sure the fire department had what they needed in terms of salary increases. I pushed to make sure our pensioners got the compensation that they strongly deserved. I have pushed for every department to get what they deserve. We've got a lot of hard-working folks, and I'm not a divider of this city or staff. But when I do see a shortfall, I see a shortfall. In terms of that comp study, yes, we got the whole package, but without the folks that we paid to go through the documentation and walk us through all the options, we got one recommendation, and it didn't give a complete picture of the options that we were looking at. I believe there was another option that was more comprehensive that not only included staff at a certain salary level, but it also included helping out the lowest paid workers as well. That option wasn't recommended and presented in front of us. In addition, the group that we hired was not here to walk us through the process and answer all the questions and explain the differences between the options, the three options. So that's what I was speaking on in terms of us getting presented with a part of the full story in terms of recommendations. When we pay money for a consultant, I want to hear from that consultant, and I want to hear all the options on the table from that consultant, because that's an unbiased party that's going to be looking objectively in terms of overall where we are. So I'm not attempting or making any attempt whatsoever to divide this staff in any way. But when I see a deficiency, I'm going to speak up about it. And it's not just a deficiency in pay. It's a deficiency in the appearance of this city. It's a deficiency in the front-facing staff and how we have to look as a city. And it's not my deficiency. If the residents themselves, the #1 complaints are from a particular group of staff and workers, then I'd be remiss if I didn't look at that and point that out, because that's what my residents are saying. So,
Councilman Allen?
I have no questions.
Councilman Gay?
Well, I don't want to be the defending Councilman Cohen all night tonight, but I don't think Councilman Cohen, words by any stretch of the imagination is to pit one department or other. I do think the man been a champion for all departments, and honestly, he was a champion for you, city manager. That's why you sit over there. Before you even knew to apply to this job, he was over there fighting, stop the madness, and let's bring it. So I don't know, that's enough of that. But you know, in lower communities, one thing we learn in communities, particular communities of color, is that they don't prioritize their grounds. I remember when I got my master's in DePaul, Tasha, and I used to catch the L train back in the 90s. And I used to go through different communities, Councilman Clay. And I noticed in certain communities that they had the same style apartment, but some communities just were different. And when I use that point to say, you know, I hope, and I'm just saying that since I'm just having fun up here tonight, but I hope when we change the leadership, I hope and pray that we take, well, I think Councilman Cohen should be saying that we take all departments serious in terms of budget, because budgets speak about your character. When you say you're gonna pay $5,000 to keep this city clean, that's your character. I've spent $5,000 on a tree. I've had so much. I've actually spent $5,000 on a tree, 8-inch caliber maple. And I think the problem is you got an IT department that's staff everywhere, and you got council, you got colleagues, and they priority. What this council need is to be balanced. Balanced in that all these departments need to be given priority. And it's my belief that we need to do a better job in procurement. I mean, y'all sit here and vote for the hundreds of thousands of dollars just like it ain't nothing. But as soon as you talk about something about grass, for somehow we've been defiant and blah, blah, blah. But yet you can sit here and vote for all this money for 8 years. I'm sitting up here. I be sometimes wondering, why is this so easy for you to vote for these hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's so difficult for you to vote for some of these most smaller budgetary items? When I first got on council, and we went to GMA, and the guy asked me, well, what's y'all budget? And I told him, well, how late you say y'all stay at council meeting? He said, man, we ain't at council meeting but a couple hours. I said, well, y'all got a lot of money to spend. And I hope with this new leadership, because to be totally honest with you, if you go to Emory or Vinings or Emmons Park, these people got immaculate homes because that's what they value. We don't value that. We value spending big money with people. That's our value system. And I hope it changes. I just hope it changes. Because it costs money to look good. It takes money to be clean. It takes money to look pretty. It takes money to bring specialists in that knows chemistry. That stuff takes money. But you're spending it on what you want to spend it on because, and I think that's where we are. We have inequities in our priorities on this council. And that is what I'm hoping this new leadership would bring.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All any opposed? Any abstentions? Councilman Gay, what is your vote?
I voted for the motion.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That is unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 9C is a motion to approve an intergovernmental agreement between the City of College Park and Fulton County for the transfer of 0.8 acres of land for a tiny homes development.
Motion.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. I'm sorry, Councilman Gay, I apologize. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Discussion, Councilman Clay?
Yeah, I'm not going to vote positively on this motion. There are a number of things wrong with the intergovernmental agreement. I provided some comments today, or I don't know, yesterday, the day before, over the weekend. I was working all weekend. So, on packet page 90, whereas in the middle of the page, in anticipation of pilot program, the city adopted or will be adopting a text amendment to its zoning ordinance establishing tiny home communities as a conditional use within its residential and transit-oriented development districts. Okay, my problem with that is transit-oriented districts, we're trying to get increased density. Good. That's fine, and that's what this is really relevant to here, because this development that the agreement is for is in the TOD. But it also says residential. Multifamily makes sense. Residential, I am not going to approve anything that says some developer can come in and tear down a bunch of homes in a single family residential district that's zoned single family and put up a tiny home community. I'm not going to approve that. So that's one problem I have with it. Another problem I have with it is in this particular case, are these homes going to be individually owned and taxable by the city? We're deeding this property over to the county. Can we tax county-owned property? I don't know. City attorney can maybe answer that question.
Mr. Denmark, can you please get to the microphone? Thank you.
If held by the county, it's not taxable. If the county transfers it to a private developer, then it obviously would be taxable.
Okay, but how do we know the county is going to transfer it?
We don't know that. Obviously, if they transfer it, it'll be a matter of public record that it was transferred. It'll be in the public record, and it'll be taxable.
Okay, so my point is, we're making an agreement to take a bunch of property off potentially on our tax rolls, and we don't know that it's going to go be back on the tax roll. So I think that's an issue. I would want it to be a requirement that, and another issue is that they be individually home and they be resident owned. What if we were, as we heard from, I think it was Councilman Gay the other night, that he was concerned, and I think it was perhaps overly concerned at the time, but that the new tiny home development down on Godby Road was pre-sold and bought by some external organization. I don't think we want that to happen with these tiny homes. I think we want them to be owner-owned. I think we put a provision in somewhere else that they couldn't be sold at a windfall profit. I can't remember where that was, but so somebody comes in, buys a tiny home which is intended to be affordable, holds it for 2 or 3 years, and they're the owner. It's not a corporation. And then in 2 or 3 years, they sell it, and for 3 or 4 times the amount.
So kind of a no flipping kind of a.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's a concern I have. Another concern. So there's a 5-year agreement on packet page 91. Item D. So there's a 5-year agreement that the development has to be commenced. First off, the development has to be commenced, has to ground break within a year, fine. But it doesn't say anything about when it's finished. So there's no reconveyance in this agreement to the city if they build one tiny home and the developer backs out or goes bankrupt or what have you, and the land sits fallow for 5 years, and we have no hold on them anymore. So that concerns me. There's no completion on here. And I gave all these comments earlier, so this shouldn't be a surprise to staff that I'm asking these questions. I haven't gotten an answer on them, but I gave them the questions in advance, like I do with everybody. And number 7, standards of performance and compliance with applicable laws. I just put this down at the bottom. Where are the provisions regarding home ownership versus rental? That it is intended for home ownership and not more rental. We need more home ownership. We need to be able to build equity for our residents in their homes. We've got too much residential as it is. It's difficult, more difficult to do in a multifamily apartment building kind of thing. But as a tiny home, for God's sake, we ought to be able to give home ownership to these people. So, where are the provisions for home ownership versus rental? And guarantee that the homes will be owned by individuals, not corporations, and will not be resold for windfall profit. So this is kind of a summary of everything else I was saying. So those are the problems I have with that, and I'm not going to approve with those things in there. So maybe you can pass it, guys, but I'm not going to pass it.
Councilman Carn?
Well, we don't want to pass something that we're not ready to pass. Were the questions answered? Did we get the answers to the questions? City manager?
The questions were referred to other staff, including the BIDA attorney. Councilman Clay gives due diligence and study on the full agenda, and most times we're able to address his questions. In this case, we were not able to get those answers before the meeting, so staff certainly would not have a problem with deferring this item.
Okay, sounds like we're going to need to. Who spoke with the BIDA attorney? What did he say? Come on.
Hello, good evening. So I met with the BIDA attorney as well as Fulton County staff to review. Councilman Clay, I did see your comments, but that was on a previous version of this document. As far as we spoke with them because we wanted to have the reconveyance to be similar to what is standard within BIDA. As far as when we spoke with Fulton County, it was agreed that they would give 12 months to apply and receive their land disturbance permit, and then 18 months from the date of execution to receive the, for the infrastructure to be in place. So those were two of the things listed within the reconveyance.
So
when I last
that's
spoke.
not in here.
Correct.
So
The
we
version
can't
that
approve
you,
it.
yes, sir. The version you received was not the latest version, but
So what we
where-
have in our
where's
packets
the-
isn't the latest version?
I'm not sure
No,
what you have in your
it is not. We received
I
another,
understand there
hold
was
on, hold
another-
on, wait. We received another version this afternoon from Ms. Rambeau at 2:06 p.m.
Okay, Ms. Rambo.
I haven't seen it.
I saw that we got a new version. Did this new version have the answers to have these additional pieces included in the new version? And I see our person from Fulton County is here. He's one of the project managers. I guess if you want to come on up, maybe you could help us out as well in terms of some of this stuff. If you've talked to Fulton County about any of these additions, I don't think they're going to have a problem with any of them, but are council members Clay's additions in the new version?
As far as I know, I believe we've addressed most of his concerns.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I believe most of Councilman Clay's concerns have
Most
been
of them.
addressed. We've addressed most of them. There might be one or two
Well,
things that we need to check on.
I'd like to know which ones
Sure.
weren't addressed.
Sure, I can take you through some of that right quick.
Go ahead, go
Well,
ahead.
Yeah, then the things that he asked about, is we can check those off and see if they're in the new version. That way we know where we are.
Okay, let's see if I can remember everything. In terms of the affordability, it is a owner-occupied program. Section on, well, it's on my page 4. Section B addresses that.
Section what?
Section D.
Section
B is in
B.
boy.
Oh, I'm
B is
sorry.
in boy.
Now, we're on the old version here. Did
Well, this
someone-
is the latest
Okay.
version.
Did we get this printed out so we could have it to look at the new version?
My copy is a little marked up, but I can.
Well, I think the 5 of us should have gotten copies from our secretary to make sure we have this stuff on our desk so we can have the new version here so we could go through it with you like you have it. The only problem,
I mean,
Yeah.
it was sent at 2:06, and so.
It was
if
emailed,
there-
or what was it?
Yes, it was emailed at 2:06.
well,
And so,
I
No,
need
the
a
funny
copy
thing
on
is,
my
I've been
desk.
through my email this afternoon, and I don't have it.
Let me check.
Although I can tell you.
206, let's see.
Maybe I accidentally deleted it, but I don't have it.
We got it on our hall. Listen, I would like to withdraw my motion to give colleagues time to kind of go over this. That's fine?
I see it here.
is there a motion to defer to the next meeting?
Sure. I'd like a motion to defer this to the next meeting.
Is there a second?
Well, question.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, discussion. Councilman Clay and going down.
I have no further questions. If we're going to defer it, I vote yes. I'm
Well,
good.
I think we have to defer it, but the question is, these ongoing delays, things, it just seems like with certain projects, we get certain kind of snafus and misses, and, well, we got this a little late here, and it didn't give anyone enough time to go through it and review it to see if the changes were made at 2:06. So, once again, we're delayed, and we'll be into October probably, right?
We can certainly bring this back at the meeting on the 18th. We wanted to get this in front of you as soon as possible so we could get feedback. This has been reviewed by attorneys, Fulton County, city attorneys, so it's been very fluid, and changes have been made to this to try and get it, like I said before you, as quickly as possible up until the last minute. So I do apologize for any confusion, but we're just trying to keep it moving.
And we want it in front of us as soon as possible, but if it's not in our packet, it's hard to have the stuff ready so we can go forward. He asked for specific changes that were necessary changes. We don't even know if they're all in there or not. You don't even know. You said, well, mostly, and I don't know what mostly means. I just want to figure out, is it a process issue that we're not getting the things we need to get in a timely manner? Because this thing has gotten delayed over and over and over again. From them having permission to go on the land, which never has been an issue here. We've done that with all the different intergovernmental outfits. The city of Atlanta wanted to take a look at Conrack. It didn't take an act of Congress to look at that property before they decided to build. So it seems some things are just purposely slowed down. Maybe I'm just imagining these things are being paranoid. But I don't think so. With some of these issues and agenda items, it makes me wonder what actually is really going on here. But this is not getting done. And it's not getting done in a professional manner from my perspective. So I don't know what we do about that, but so we got another delay. All right, we have to defer it to another meeting.
Councilman
All right.
Allen?
I have no questions.
Councilman Gay?
No question.
All those in favor of deferral to the next meeting?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 9D is a motion to amend and approve Mr. Hawthorne, I apologize. You had the full verbiage there. Could you?
Yes, Mayor. It is a motion to amend and approve lease number GS 04B 30123 to issue the notice to proceed to fund the renovation of the Federal Aviation Administration space for immediate use of the Federal Railroad Administration at 1701 Columbia Avenue. The cost to renovate the existing space, inclusive of all associated preparation costs, including but not limited to the city's overhead and profit, shall not exceed $219,233.70 for the renovation. And the Finance Director can clarify, but I believe these costs would be reimbursed by the Federal Aviation Administration.
Thank you, Mr. Hawthorne.
That's correct.
Is there a motion?
I have questions.
I have questions.
Okay. Who is there a motion? We can have discussion afterward.
Well, I'd like to get my questions answered. I don't want a motion for anything until I figure out what we got here.
Does anyone have a motion to approve?
We have discussion, Mayor.
Sir, hold on. I'm calling for the motion because typically there is a motion
Well,
and then
I think we
there's a
need to
second.
discuss this before we go to motions.
Is there a motion? All right. Questions for Ms. Floyd Bradley? Starting with Councilman Clay.
Okay, Althea, I sent a couple questions this afternoon. One is on the statement of work. On page 7 of the statement of work that we got. By the way, let me start off. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job, and I think this is really a great addition to the building and what you're doing on the lease and so forth. I think great. But I have some questions. First is on page 7 of the statement of work, item item P, I'm sorry. When you have a building with a lot of cabling, like they have at the FAA building, I am sure, or any business building, what happens over time is that the cable conduits or the cable runways or whatever they're using, and I haven't toured the FAA building in a number of years, so I'm not sure what they use there. But if you don't remove the old cabling, you end up with just a continuing buildup of cable, and eventually that creates a real problem. So anytime you go ahead and put in new cabling, they're putting in fiber optic cable, they're putting in Cat 3, they're putting in Cat 5, I think. You should be removing the old cabling. I don't see anything in the statement of work that says they're removing the old cabling.
Yes, I sent an email, I responded to your email.
Pardon?
I did respond to your email about 4:30, but Ron is out of town, so I was not able to get in touch with him prior to the meeting. I'm unsure as far as the entire construction of the whole deal, whether or not they're removing or replacing, adding in new cables. I would have to get that information from Ron Wilkerson.
That's something that needs to be done. Now, is it a showstopper? I'm certainly not going to vote to not do this because of whether, if they said, no, we're not going to remove the cabling. But it is something you should do because eventually that weight builds up in those cable troughs or conduits, and then you can't run cable anymore in them. So it becomes a future cost for somebody else. That was the one thing I saw in the statement of work. I think that's the only thing I saw in the statement of work. And then I gave you another one, and I can't remember. It was on the...
Yeah, you asked about whether or not at the FAA, if we approve this, whether or not they would hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah. It was if we approve this, we're approving an amendment to a contract that we haven't approved.
Well, the contract hasn't expired, and it does not need to come back before you for approval.
It doesn't have to come back for approval?
No, it does
Okay,
not.
so then I'll ask my second question, which was related to that, and that is, so we approve this. And I know you and Ed have been doing an incredible job. That's why I was starting off with in making this happen. But what if we approve this, and what you think you have worked out verbally that we don't have in a change to the contract, right? Because that would be a change to the main contract that we're automatically renewing, correct?
Correct.
So what happens if they decide, oh, well, thank you, glad you approved the amendment, but guess what? We have second thoughts about changing the contract.
I highly doubt they would do that. They've already sent us the contract that's more favorable than basically the auto renewal, which is, the auto renewal is set to go back down to 1.6 million.
Pardon?
Our auto renewal of the contract, the rent rate was set to go back down to 1.6
Well, I know that.
million, but they sent us, before our meeting was set, they proactively sent us a lease amendment, basically increasing that auto renewal to 3.1 million, which we're currently receiving.
So
We were going back to
When
them.
are we approving that?
We asked them to look at the renovations that have to be done over the next 10 years, which is estimated at 4.6 million, and they agreed to take it back before the FAA and
All I'm saying is, what do we have contractually that guarantees that if we make this change, if we approve this change tonight, you absolutely positively know, guaranteed, that the agreement changes that you've been working on? are
There's
going-
no guarantee, but I'm confident, I'm comfortable with our discussion that they will try to do something. So I'm confident in that.
Okay, so we're trusting on the word.
We've been in a relationship with them for what, 20 years?
And unfortunately, this particular issue that they requested when staff was at the table just last week, and I will tell you, going into that meeting, our biggest issue was losing revenue
$1.5
at the
million.
levels that Ms. Lord Bradley just, they had a completely different tune, not only to keep us whole, but also costs that were built into the contract for every 10 years, repairs and replacements and those things, that they're willing to look at those costs. So Councilman Clayton, no, we don't have a guarantee. We do have the draft agreement now pending, looking at these replacement costs that they may bear for the building, our building. But they have a time-sensitive issue with the federal budgetary year, and so that's the reason that we're bringing it before you. I think their deadline is September 9th.
September 8th, but we could have brought the other agreement before you, which they provided us with. We asked them to go back and look at the improvements that need to be done, because they did send us the actual contract for 3.1 million. But we asked them to go back and look at the construction that need to be done over the next 10 years.
You know, you understand my dilemma.
We understand.
And,
It could jeopardize.
I
progress that we've
understand,
made.
I understand why we're doing it. I almost had asked the question why we were having this discussion in public meeting, why this was not suitable for executive session, but it isn't, or it wasn't, or at least it didn't turn out to be, so we're having it in public meeting right now, which I don't think is appropriate.
How is this not real estate? I guess.
Well, this isn't real estate as far as them coming before you to amend the lease so that they can provide space for the FRA. Now, the discussion on the renewal, that can be a further discussion once we get the actual contract with the
It
update.
isn't, anyhow. at this
You asked the
point.
question, so I just answered
Yep,
it, so it
yep.
came up.
Okay, all right. I've asked my questions.
Councilman Carr?
Well, I think it is real estate,
Well, it
because we
doesn't
own the
matter, Joe.
building.
You're talking about the
The
219?
cat's out of the bag, Joe.
This FAA, the whole situation. The first thing I was gonna answer is, where is Ron, number one? I assumed he was gonna be here because this was an emergency situation that could not wait. I got questions, and I was assuming I'd be able to get my questions answered when he came down tonight to let us know what was going on and give us the detail. I think you did a great job on this, you and Ed. This is it's a winner for us, obviously, because what we were looking at after that expiration was not gonna be great. So I'm thanking you for us getting to this point. Ron did tell us that GSA was gonna be consolidating various government agencies in there. And true to his word, it's happening. You know, he mentioned railroad, he mentioned Social Security Administration. So we're glad to see that happening. The building and the capacity was not at a decent level for them to maintain it, and it wasn't a good look when the contract expires. But I got questions here. This is very important. The FAA is on the deadline. I would have assumed if he wasn't gonna be here that we'd have him on the phone so he can answer some of these questions. And I don't know if that's possible, but the renovation timeline, I wanted to kind of get a full feel for that. Which floors are gonna be involved in terms of, is all, some, half, whereabout?
I think there's a map on there that shows you exactly what locations will be
I
renovated.
see the maps, but
Okay.
I can't read any of this at all. The printing on this is so terrible and small that I can't see any of it or read any of it. The other question I had is, exactly why should the admin fee be split exactly? Was that something that y'all negotiated, or that they just laid out to us?
They laid that out to us. We normally go half and half, where Collier receives half and the city receives the other half. That's normally how it's split.
Okay. And I know we recently had a major renovation a few years ago there, and I wonder why that wasn't included, because at some point he said they were gonna plan on bringing in the other outfits, and it would have been great if they would have been able to do that with this, but I know they need the configuration that they need, I guess. So I would have liked to have, I'd assume we were gonna be able to talk to Ron to get a little more detail in terms of what we're talking about.
I can have him come back when he returns from out of town, just after the fact, if that's something you would like.
Well, I just assumed tonight we were gonna hear from him. This is an emergency request, so I understood it was very important. We need to do it. I'd assumed if he wasn't gonna be here and someone knew that, well, we've got Ron on the phone to address all your concerns, or if he has a deputy building manager or someone there that knows the building and knows what's happening, a project manager, then that person maybe should have been here. And I don't think I'm reaching for the stars here now.
It was just the timing.
it's-
He's out of the state, actually. He's up north with his mom, so it was just the timing. So he informed me that he wouldn't be available, but he did leave me his number. But it's 11 o'clock.
Well, we're here, and we're here. I mean, bottom line, I just, it's hard to function effectively if you're in a state of ignorance sometimes with certain things, and it's no fault of anybody's necessarily, but we have the agenda items, we want to get the information and get the questions answered. We need the person that we pay to manage our building here, or someone else. I know, he can't be in two places at once, but surely there would have had to have been someone there that could have been here.
Understood, but any questions you may have, if you would send them to me, I can forward them to Ron and have him answer your questions. Or I can take them down tonight and send him an email.
I'll send you my questions in the morning. I just,
Okay.
I don't know. Okay. All right.
Councilman Allen?
I think it's good news. I think it's something we need to do, obviously.
Can you talk in the
But
mic, Councilman Carr?
I just wish that, we were a little more prepared here, so we could at least have someone from the building to kind of go over it with us, that's all. I mean,
Understood.
and again, I don't think that's asking for too much.
No.
I'm just, you know,
That's what it is, Joe.
yeah, well, you can say that again.
Councilman Allen?
First of all, you know, we had the news on how much it was gonna cost us when everything went down, the contract. And this is a great win for College Park. But again, I wish we had more information sooner so we could look at it, like Councilman Carn says. A lot of times that doesn't always happen. But when we can, we need to make sure we do have somebody that we can talk to, that we can get a question answered, and we can go ahead and make that decision. So I think this is something that definitely is needed for the city. It's going to bring more people into the city. It's going to fill up that building a little bit more. It's going to be good for College Park. So I thank you, and I thank Ed for all the work y'all put into this and getting us back to a positive note.
Thank you.
Councilman Gay?
Well, I'm not as grateful as my colleagues are because I was just sitting here thinking, the senior exemption tax that I sponsored took a year and a half, and then it got changed completely. Then I sponsored an action for minority deposit. That took 2 years, and to this day, it still ain't gonna be on the agenda. And you say it's an emergency, he don't even have to come. We talking about $200,000, and it's amazing how fast you guys can work, you and Ed, and how you can take complex problems and simplify them. But when it comes to some things, you can't come and get, and that's why cause I was talking to some people Saturday, I was in a lady house. She says, you don't realize how many people listen to what you be saying. They don't get this. They just don't, I mean, at the end of the day, we got other business to take care of. This is not what the average citizen or voter cares about, at least the ones I talk to. So I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to be argumentative. I take exception to the fact that you can make this so easy to give up this $200,000, but when it comes to cutting grass and paying lower tier, it's a problem.
We're not giving up 200,000. The FAA is paying for it. We're not paying for it.
No, I'm not talking about the money. I'm talking about the process. I'm saying, let me repeat. When it was the senior tax, it took a year and a half. It went through the world, and it came back, and it still didn't get the way that we want. Right. The minority deposit, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's still no resolute. What I'm saying, I'll say it again. It amazes me how our staff can be so articulate and experienced, and how grateful we are on some things, but other things, it's still no resolute. That's just what I'm saying. I get to say that. That's my option to say. I take exception to that, ma'am. I do.
Is there a motion?
Question. City Manager, I guess, obviously this is something we need to do. I trust your judgment. I'm glad we are catching this, and we apparently have to do this before September 8th. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, so we just pass this a little blind here? Is that what you recommended? Because, I mean, I don't want it to pass it up, so.
Well, I probably wouldn't categorize it that way. This is, we're going to be bringing back to you in a matter of a few weeks, I would project, the full lease agreement. And Councilman Carn, based on what you were inferring, you haven't stated what your questions were, but it sounds like the issues may be more related to the facilities management itself of the building So I think we will certainly have an opportunity to address your questions on the big item. This is a little sliver of information that isn't going to cost us anything, that helps, in this case, the General Services Administration actually bring in some additional economic development into the city before the federal budgetary year expires.
Okay, so it's something we need to do it tonight.
Yes.
Okay, that's what,
I have a
Is
question.
there-
I have a question before we vote. Did I hear it right that we don't split the cost of 219,000?
We get
No, they pay,
reimbursed.
it's been reimbursed by the FAA, 100%.
Is there a motion?
all right, motion.
I second.
Motion by Councilman Carn, second by Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 9E is Councilman Clay, your appointment to the DMO.
Right. I had to replace Ms. McKenzie on the BIDA, and I had several potential candidates. I chose Sherry Godfrey, who was on DMO, because at least she had some experience on a major board of a few months. And I moved her over to the VITA position, which left Cookie Smoke without a representative on DMO from Ward 1. So looking at the resume of the candidate that was an option for BIDA, I'm going to recommend to appoint to DMO, and that is Dr. Lethea Williams. And she seems to have a good resume. I actually ran her resume back by Cookie Smoke, and Cookie was fine, so I'm fine.
That's your motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
Dr. Lethea Williams.
All right, Councilman Clay's made the motion. Councilman Carn has seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. City Attorney's report.
Nothing this evening, ma'am.
City Manager's report.
Mayor, I'll keep it short due to the lateness of the hour, but as you know, we've transmitted the strategic performance report that should have been 40 pages. I inadvertently left out the Department of Economic Development's report, but we'll get that updated to you by next week. The primary things that I would just summarize would be the very busy season that we've got coming up, that staff is very busy addressing a motion that the council approved with the adopted budget, actually ahead of the adopted budget. So between the restructuring, what you all labeled as your wish list, which was a pretty significant list of items, the restructuring, an amendment to the strategic plan, the tax millage public hearings that are coming up, and in some way, all of those 4 items are related. It will be a new process. We're going to be suggesting kind of a mini budgeting process. I think it will help you in your decisions that you will be making after hearing from the public and hearing from staff on what the tax millage level should be. It will all come to a need for your decisions by the meetings in October. I believe the first meeting in October, which is October 16th. So a lot of information, transparency as I'll call it, which also ties in to the core values. So there's a lot ahead, and your community building leadership team are working intensively to pull together a lot of information based on the city manager's change process that you'll see more of in a few weeks. I did want to also mention there have been some questions, given the political season, and as I have experienced in plenty of other places, there are always issues and questions and potential violations of everything that goes with campaigning. Our city clerk has been on top of this, having given the initial direction that you all are aware of, the candidates are aware, and I have had a conversation with our chief building official. He will be reaching out to all of the candidates to ensure that they're following, hopefully, to the letter of policy and law, abiding by those same provisions. So with that, I will stop and, but do encourage you to, if you don't get to look at the approximately 40-page document, we are preparing a shortened version. It happens to be 13 pages that we have already posted for the public. It's one of those things that strategic communications to our public that have been highlighted by some of you this evening. The significance of email, the email library, and ensuring that we're taking advantage of that. But in the future is something that I'm hoping when we have important information to share with our community, it's not expecting them to go to the website. It certainly will be there, but literally personalizing and reaching out and sending out easy communications to our residents, our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawthorne. Report of Mayor and Council. Councilman Clay.
Well, that was a great segue, City Manager. I just wanted to comment, having been on council for 16 years, I have never been better informed of what is going on in the departments than I have been in the last several months with your reports.
Thank you.
It is an incredible difference. On top of that, we're also informing the community, which I think is a real milestone as well. So the transparency is great. Second thing I'd like to say is, when I was in business, I spent a good deal of time reorganizing. All the time, had to. New work came in, projects had to go away, I had to move people around, et cetera, et cetera. I looked at your report this time, the one that came out, I guess it was today or yesterday, I can't remember.
Saturday.
Yeah, it's all blur. I was working all weekend anyhow. But, and I can tell you were as well.
Yes, sir.
So, again, in the 16 years that I've been on council, I have never seen any significant attempt to really reorganize the staff into an efficient and an effective, more efficient and more effective organization. So I don't want you to get it too big of a head now, but I just can't say too much about, I looked at the org chart, it's starting to take shape. I like what you've done in limiting the participation on the committees, how you're structuring, looking across the organization in a couple different dimensions. I just can't say too many good things about what I think you're doing, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the results in a few weeks. So that having been said, I have a couple other things to say.
Thank you.
First off, I attended, I think we pretty much all attended, well, I guess, Joe, you didn't make it, but the renaming of Road Street to Lottie Miller. That was probably one of the most significant, maybe not financially, the building of it certainly was financially significant, and I think is a gateway to 6 West. But the just the feeling, literally the feeling that we had, I think everybody felt it, that was there. It was like a family gathering. It was like, it was so, I think it was Councilman, maybe Gay, I don't know, whoever suggested that it be done coincident with the coming home event that takes place every year. And it was so neat because the people, Sabritha, for example, was a resident of the city, and she did an incredible job of organizing it. And even to my last minute complaint of drawing a map as to where we were supposed to park, I said, where are we supposed to park? There are a lot of places. So it was just it was one of the nicest events that I've experienced over my time on council. And it just shows how the city has the potential to come together and do something that is really meaningful to all of us. And I don't know, that's just my perception of being there. It was just a very warm feeling that you don't normally get at different events. The second thing I wanted to say was I received a text today. Paul Dorn, you may remember Paul Dorn. Yeah, I don't know that you remember Paul Dorn. Oh, yeah. But he owns several buildings on Main Street, and he has now moved out of the city, and he is just sent me an email saying, or text message actually, saying, please let everybody know and thank everyone for putting up with him for 51 years and helping him prosper on Main Street. And I guess he still has some financial connection to some degree, but he sold the buildings to his residents, to the people that were staying there. So he still has some financial interest in things, but he sold his buildings, and you know, I thought it was really nice to hear from him. He said he was sorry he couldn't be here tonight, but he wanted me to pass that word on for him. And that's all I have to say tonight.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Carr?
All right. Well, we had a good weekend. The Lottie Miller renaming, proud moment, proud moment. I wish I could have been there, but I was busy, I guess, making my own moment in Black history, so to speak. Otherwise, I would have been there. I heard it really, really went well. I want to thank everybody for putting it together. Ms. Beasley, everyone. I heard it was a really, really strong event. Councilmember Gay, this was your project, and I think it was something that was long overdue, long overdue. The city's got a lot of good history within its borders. One piece of history I also want to keep in mind is coming up next month, the month of October, that's going to be the 60th anniversary of our longest serving contractor. And 60 years is a heck of a thing. I want to figure out how we can do something a little extra special to recognize Warren Bond for 60 consecutive years of service in this city, which is absolutely unbelievable. But city manager, I thought it'd be nice if we, I know at times when we, I don't know, swear in a new police chief or new department head or have a welcome, we have a little light reception out in the lobby before we get going. We've done it probably a dozen times before over the years, and I just thought it'd be something nice to recognize someone that's been doing this for that long. I mean, it's unbelievable. Jesse Dent, who was a city council member, he used to tell me he remembers when he was here on council and Warren would come and shoot pictures, and there was this little bitty boy with him that would help set up things and whatnot, and that was Warren Jr. Yeah, and I just said, you know, this was all before my time, but just really amazing. But obviously, I don't think you get 60-year milestones. They don't come every day. So I definitely wanted to see if we could plan something at the first or second meeting, maybe put something together. Obviously, I think a proclamation or some kind of a plaque or something would be nice. And Stanley, I definitely want to tell you, you know, I think since you've been here, things are on the upswing. The information is great. And I've said several meetings in a row how much better I sleep at night. Just being informed, it is such a relief to to make sure you have a grip on exactly what's going on in the city. Does it all make you happy? No. Does it all make you disgruntled? No. We're making good progress. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do, and there are a lot of issues here that are going on that maybe shouldn't be going on. But the more we talk and discuss, every discussion, every sentence is very important. Those Q alert ward reports, that's what I was speaking about earlier. You know, if you want to know where the deficiencies are, you know, one good way is to listen to the residents. And again, we've got to look at filling those gaps. I think all staff is important, and I fought for all staff across the board, from the highest paid all the way down to me. So, and I will continue to advocate for staff, but we need some equity here and there. You know, I probably sat up here through hundreds upon hundreds of resolutions and proclamations, and I was standing up there today and listening to the proclamation. It was a great proclamation, another great one. They've all been great. Great topics, worthy recognitions, and worthy issues. But after you've been up here a while, and you know, I said to myself, you know, when will we get to the point in this city where we get to the truly needed proclamations, I guess you could say? You know, some of the most crucial resolutions I think we need to look at. You know, just once, I would love to see this city, you know, make a proclamation committing to raising the standards overall. There's a lot that we can do in this city if we just make a decision and decide to do it. You know, a proclamation is a commitment. It's a resolution. It's saying that we're all on board and we're committed to doing this, that, and the other. We got to raise our standards in this city. You know, I'd like to see a resolution to properly staff all of this city and figure out a way to get these positions covered. You know, I'd love to see a proclamation to address, you know, our tale of two cities, because that's what we are and have been for many, many years. You know, a city where some of our residents, you know, in Ward 1 and 3 North, you know, some of them enjoy, you know, pretty good quality of life. While, you know, the majority of our residents, you know, are dealing with some substandard living conditions. You know, there's too much disorder and crime for a city our size. Now, are we in terrible shape? No. I think we do pretty good overall. But we have a lot of work to do and a lot of changes to make in this city. I don't want this city to be bogged down anymore by petty limitations at all. You know, truth be told, I don't think there's any reason whatsoever why this city should not look as good as Beverly Hills, California, or Peachtree City, or wherever, regardless of our socioeconomic dynamics. We need to figure this out, because this affects every department and every bit of quality of life for every resident at the end of the day. We've got to understand where we are and what gaps we need to fill, and we need to get them filled. And I've dealt with department heads after department heads after department heads, and a lot of times they tell me about the impossibilities. We can't do this because of this. We can't change this because of that. This and that, and this is not our fault. Yes, and all of those things are true, you know. But my answer is, so what? I think we're going to get this done anyway, one way or another, and we have to start looking at these issues for what they are. A lot of times up here, you know, we have a glaring issue, and some of us will look at it, some of us won't look at it. Some of us, you know, will put the skunk on the table, and some of us hide it underneath the table. We got a lot of work to do, but you cannot solve a problem that you don't acknowledge that you have. So we got to do some acknowledgement. You know, I looked at just in regards to the public comments with the Lakeshore Drive, the school. We need to come up with a traffic plan that makes sense, that does not disrupt this neighborhood like it does. You know, city attorney, I would imagine if your team were to do some research, I would imagine there are dozens of cities that have that same issue with a school in a neighborhood and traffic in the mornings, traffic at night, you know, where the neighbors are at wit's end and it's a situation. And they've probably come up with some kind of a fix, just really focusing on that issue for a while and figuring it out. And there've probably been some solutions where we don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. But it's a problem where the disparities in this city are glaring. They're glaring. Because I do believe if this was happening in Ward 1 or 3 North, I got to tell you right now, there would have been a solution up here. I think stuff like that is a top priority for this city. The only problem that makes it not a top priority, I think, is the location. And that's just my truth. So I want us to double our efforts. I want us to, you know, be a little more thorough with what we're doing. I shouldn't have to ask and beg and plead for the simplest requests for information or follow-up or thoroughness. I shouldn't have to do that. Because this isn't my gig, my career here, you know. We get paid for 2 meetings a month. The rest are free. And it's a whole lot of free. But I don't mind. I want to serve. But I know we can do better if we make up our minds to fix the deficiencies and make a decision to really start to fix them. And we have started to make those decisions. And Stanley, you are our quarterback. You are the head coach. And I think we're making progress. But we got to get serious about this, and we have to keep looking at these problems, because they will not resolve themselves unless we're looking at them in the face. So let's just keep going, and let's keep making progress here.
Councilman Allen?
Yes, a couple of things. First of all, we do have that traffic problem in 3 North, and it's not Woodward. It's the school at the end of Hardin Avenue blocks traffic every day. So maybe that's something that we need to take a look at around our schools. You know, are there problems with traffic? Not only the Lakeshore, but we need to look and make sure that we are looking at each of the schools. I concur with Councilman Clay, Councilman Carnes. City Manager, you're doing a fantastic job. I can see the pride coming back to the employees. I can see their buy-in. We just need to keep working at it and getting better and better. I appreciate every single thing that you do. Lottie Miller, renaming, fantastic. Again, all the employees that were involved, everybody that was there, the homecoming people that were there, Councilman Gay, this was your project from the beginning, having it at the same time, and I appreciate that. need to, and again, it's just my opinion, I think we need to look at the roundabout and possibly doing something there to remember those folks and those people. We talked about one time, what are we gonna put in that roundabout? We can do something in that roundabout, working with those people that were here. Working with Larry and all the other folks to try to get something that is meaningful so that when people come into 6 West, they do see that. So we just kind of need to keep that in our mind. The DMO had their yearly meeting on the 30th, and it was fantastic. Cookie, Smoke, and her people do a great job every year. The numbers keep staggering us. I cannot believe the amount of time they put in, Mercedes Group puts in, to make the GICC and the other areas in College Park go very well. Recreation Department, Community Police, and the Fire Department were all at the movie at Zepp Park. And thank you very much for everybody that was involved in that. Mitchell's versus the Machines. It was an interesting movie, but there were people there that enjoyed it. People brought their chairs. They were able to let their kids sit down and watch a movie or play on the playground at night and sit back and enjoy a dinner. Most of the people brought sandwiches and sat down and had a good time. So again, Recreation Department, everybody involved, thank you very much. And that's really all I have.
Councilman Gay?
Yes, well, a couple things. I didn't hear the public comment, but I'm assuming there was some comment on Lakeshore Drive. That right, somebody?
Yes.
I pretty much bet you that we was gonna get sidewalks, but we have a constituent, I shall not name her, who leads a coalition of people who fought sidewalks. But these particular people, they walk every day. So let me say it again. The person that goes up and down the street dividing the community does the most walking, but don't want sidewalks. The other thing is, we were just blessed to get paving. As a result of the Road Street, we were able to get $2 million the council approved to pave streets throughout this ward. So Lakeshore Drive is getting paved, so no doubt you're gonna come and then try and throw shade on something good. That's what we do. That's just, but they didn't realize that the chief and myself last year had meaningful discussion with the Main Street Academy. We talked about best practices. They didn't realize that myself and Glenn from Power was just down there the other day. They didn't realize that the Public Works Director and engineer are looking at striping to minimize the traffic. But, you know, as long as they don't block the driveways, people got a school that they love, they enjoy. And for us to have a community where people are proud to have their children there, I think most of my residents, with the exception of a few, don't mind inconvenience as long as they can get out their driveway. I don't think they mind inconvenience. So, second thing is, there was a great event at Lolly Miller, but I want to particularly thank one employee, and I get in trouble when we do this, but it's Officer Peniago, he here? So, believe it or not, he did a 16-hour shift.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean by choice, of course, but he get a 98. He don't get 100 because he didn't get the tent. He let the people tent out there on the field. So Larry brought the tent to me Sunday morning. I got the tent. But I only brought that up to say this. We realized that there is another tradition. It's called an after party. And my wife and I went to the after party. And I was impressed that, believe it or not, thousands, well, I don't know if it's 1,000, but hundreds of children, fourth generation, coming home, reunion kids, not one incident. You know, you see that on news, drive-bys, fight, not one incident. And our police were there as friends. They weren't there to intimidate. They weren't there to be, you know, force a show. They were there with just say, hey, I'm part of this event with y'all. So kudos to the parents, the grandmamas, the aunties who had your childrens out there and was acting decent. I'm very proud of that. But then I was in a meeting, not a meeting, but we was at this lady's house, and she wanted me to remind and continue the conversation about the cemetery. She thought that that's part of the coming home, and that we should continue to fight to try and take eminent domain over that cemetery, because a lot of their families are out there resting, and they're concerned about the quality of, and she brought up one good point. Doc, she said, how is it that you can get a ticket for having high grass, but we don't give tickets to the owner of the cemetery who don't keep up the lawn? So we said, that's a good point. So maybe we could look at contacting the state that oversees cemeteries and just see how we can support, you know, that effort. Did the basketball goal get taken off the agenda while I was out? Did the basketball court?
Yes, because we made progress with the original contractor on the performance bond.
All right, I can give you a hug. Great. Next thing is excited. They'll be out there this week. Hopefully. Hopefully. Good. I just have a couple of things. The late Jack Longino scholarship has not been implemented for this school year. I've been called by, I think, the lady at the Rotary Club. She works at Martina White. She's the new chair. And I've been called about a couple of the parents want to know if the children are going to get the school stipend. I think financial aid deadlines right around the corner. I got two of them. I got two deadlines. I got two financial aid deadlines. So, if that. Yes, ma'am.
Normally they provide a list. Mr. Hicks used to be on the committee, so I can reach out to them and ask them to provide the approved list, because they basically provide us with that list and we cut the check once I get that information.
All right.
So I'll reach out to them.
Yeah, please, because I called her, and unfortunately, they've had two change of leadership. This chair does not know anything about it.
Oh, wow, okay.
Nothing. So you might want to get Mr. Hicks to, but we did have a conversation about maybe just giving the same kids the money and not trying to go out and solicit new kids, because we're so close to financial aid deadlines.
Okay, I can look into it and I'll get with them and get back with you. You have a comment?
Jill Durham.
Sir?
Jill Durham is the lady at Martino White.
So Martino and White is normally who I deal
Jill
with.
Durham, yes.
Jill Durham?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just got one final comment. You know, I was watching I was watching the Rutherford and Northwestern game Sunday. It was 12. I think it was Sunday. And I was saying to myself, you know, without rules and referees, we couldn't enjoy our sports. They have a lot of rules. And it's campaign season. I am appalled at the disrespect and the disregard that some of our candidates, and I know you want to win, and I get that. We all want to win. But we have rules, and we need to respect the rules. You know, people come to enjoy coming home. That's their reunion. I get you got a shirt on. That's cool. You can walk around. But to be out there full-blown campaigning, I don't think that's right. It's in bad taste. It don't look good. You know, taking flyers and sticking them on mailbox. Hey, buy some postage. People don't want to come home and see that stuff all on their mailboxes. In fact, you're not supposed to touch the federal mailbox. But these candidates who don't want to respect the rule, if the referees, if y'all don't take care of it, and be careful what I say, but make sure they respect the rules, okay? Because what happens when a game, when the referee don't respect the rule, the players do what? And we don't want that. So let's respect the rules and we get through this. And I think they know who they are. Don't continue to come to these public events displaying all this. Earn it. Earn it. Be around for the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years and earn it. That's what I want to say. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to echo everyone's sentiments about the Lottie Miller Boulevard renaming celebration. It was fantastic, and along with the subsequent coming home reunion, it was just a really fun and wonderful day. The weather held up, and it was just a magnificent showing of College Park. Please don't forget the Phoenix Trail. Until September 18th, you can vote. If you've got one email address, you can vote once a day. If you've got multiple email addresses, hit refresh, and you can add other email addresses. I'm up to 6. And you can do that at NiagaraPerkYourPark.com. If we land in the top 3, we get $75,000 for the Phoenix Trail. So this is a great opportunity for us to get essentially free money to help improve our facilities. So please tell your friends, tell your family. Go to NiagaraPerkYourPark.com and you can keep on voting until September 18th. Wanted to thank our Chief Billing Officer for 2 things. One, an excellent cross-jurisdictional multi-family inspections training that was a jam-packed 4 hours with Krispy Kreme donuts. Mr. Robinson had a great speaker in Marcus Kellum, correct? Yes, who led us through lots of information. I was proud to be there the whole 4 hours and get my certificate and learned quite a bit about how we tackle some of the issues that we have going on in some of our multi-family units, and also just to hear what's going on in other communities. We had folks from DeKalb County there. We had folks from East Point and Fairburn and other jurisdictions. And so it was really just a fantastic opportunity for everyone to connect, learn, and grow together. So thank you so much for that opportunity, and thank you for showing up in Macon. Went with Mr. Robinson and Francis Kennedy to visit the folks in Macon and learn a little bit more about what they're doing in regard to code enforcement and tackling blight. They've got some very innovative strategies that are a real example of departments working together. Now, some of the things that they can do in Macon are a little bit different because they are a consolidated government. So it is Macon-Bibb County, and so we are one city. But there are still some lessons that we can take from that, and it was also fantastic to see the oldest Keep Georgia Beautiful chapter in Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful, and learn about how they are working to improve the community from so many different aspects as well, and saw this amazing project that they're doing at their mall. They are renovating an old mall, and they're building an amphitheater. The Board of Elections is there, and there's a number of other facilities there, and they're trying to reutilize and revitalize some underused space in their community to just bring up the entire city. And so want to thank Mayor Miller and his team for graciously hosting us for the afternoon. It was very, very informative, and look forward to connecting with them again as well. Also want to thank Tasha Hall Garrison, Hannah Palmer, Conservation Fund, and representatives from Congressman David Scott's office and the Atlanta Regional Commission for going out last Friday, right, Councilman Allen? Yep, it was last Friday. And Councilman Allen was there too, for a tour of the headwaters of the Flint River. And as everyone knows, this is a project that we've been working on as a city for a number of years, and it was a fantastic chance to show some of the folks who have direct influence on assisting us with this project, the importance of it, and how what we do at the headwaters in East Point and College Park directly impacts the health of the river downstream. And so that means that if we are good stewards of it, we are helping to mitigate flooding in Clayton County. We are helping to improve the overall purity of the water that is going through the system. And this is a river that actually goes under the airport and is subjected to a lot of things that perhaps more traditional waterways would not be. So to have the opportunity for everyone to see what we were talking about was a really, really fantastic event. And Councilman Gage, your point about the comment in regard to the cemetery, I've heard that as well, and connected with some folks from Oakland Cemetery, because they have done some extensive work, as we all know, to maintain and improve Oakland Cemetery. And I spoke with Mr. Hawthorne about some of the options that we might have, and so might have a chance to sort of circle back and talk about where things are. But it's on your radar, it's on my radar, I think it's on all of our radars, because the state of that cemetery right now is not where anybody wants it to be. And we can do better, and we should do better. So that's about all I've got. We have one motion out of executive session to approve an internal equity salary adjustment to $125,000 for the city clerk. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
All right. So that is Councilman Gay, Councilman Allen, and Councilman Clay in favor. Councilman Carn is opposed. The motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the executive session minutes?
Motion.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. And that brings us to the end of our meeting on Tuesday morning at 12:08. Have a great, great Tuesday. Hope you get a little bit. Oh my gosh, you're right. It's Wednesday. That Labor Day holiday threw me off. Take care, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.